spooky friends. We're glad you could join us for today's episode. These weekly episodes also serve as weekly meetings for our very own true crime cults.
That's right, we started a cult so that all of our spooky friends have a place to go for non-stop creepy content. But never fear, you've landed in the cult with all the adorable baby goats and none of the brainwashing.
In case you're just joining us for the very first time today, allow us to introduce ourselves. I'm Angelina, and I'm here with my bewitching bestie, Aurora. How was your week?
Nothing too exciting, but I am going to Vancouver Pride this weekend.
Yay!
Which I'm
That's
super
awesome.
excited about. Yes.
So are you going to like the parade or like side events or...
I don't know yet. I know that I'm going to a drag brunch on Saturday, which I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah.
And the parade, I don't know. I find them to not like hold my interest like that much. Like I think I'm just like getting too old and I have to be like constantly entertained.
Yeah.
And so like I don't know, like I know like some prides have like performers and stuff. I'm just not sure how big Vancouver's is, if we're just like walking and holding signs or if we're like being entertained.
That's why it's like I've never been to the Pride Parade in Montreal and I want to go and check it out because Montrealers like to be like, oh, it's, really something. It's like
Right.
Montreal has a special something. But I think they honestly just say that because, I don't know, it's like a weird mentality where, there's this sort of unspoken rivalry with places like Toronto and stuff like that.
Right.
And Toronto does have like a world famous Pride celebration. Like it makes like top 10 lists all the time, It's like a huge special thing to go to. And so I think Montrealers like to be like, yeah, us too. Ours is the same. So like without going to the other ones. So like that's the vibe I get from people here, that it's like special. But then I try looking it up and it's like, seems like more of the, like you say, just like walking around holding signs. Like in Toronto, there's like hundreds of naked people dancing in the streets. There's like bands set up along the way. You're like,
That's
cool.
what sounds fun to me. I don't want to be one of those naked people. Maybe I do.
No,
I don't know.
No, I don't. But I want to look at the naked people. I'll just like walk through them with my outfit.
With my clothed person.
Yes. Speaking of outfits, I feel like I never have the opportunity to coordinate cool outfits. Like there's no purpose for doing that these days, but I did it for the first time in ages last night because we went to, there was a rockabilly band called Peter and the Wolves that was playing outdoor show in this sort of square. So like, we went out to that and I dressed up cute and nobody like acknowledged or complimented my coordination, which like I was disappointed. Because so listen to this. I had a gingham dress on and then I have little white shoes with ants all over them. And I was like, I'm going to be fucking picnic theme. Nobody mentioned it.
Oh my God. Okay, you have to post pictures.
Yeah, well, I need to put it back on and take some pictures because I didn't take any, but I will.
You didn't take any pictures of your cute picnic outfit? You were just so upset that nobody noticed.
I was like, you bastards. I'm sour now.
We will notice and care, so let's get this posted.
All right.
Well, it's fun to imagine yourself as an honorary cult member as you listen to our show. But if you'd like to make it official, you can join the MMN commune on Patreon. You'll find us at patreon.com/murdermurdernews. To show you how much we appreciate your monthly pledge, we'll give you a shout out on our show, your own official title like Grandmaster of Goats, and you'll also have exclusive access to our special patron-only content like our monthly special video episodes. Keep an eye out for July's Patreon exclusive video episode all about missing persons who disappear on purpose. The episode comes out this weekend.
And we'll be right back after a quick commercial break.
HLN's premiering the first of 8 new episodes of Forensic Files 2 starting on Sunday, July 31st at 10 p.m. Eastern Time with an episode titled Blanket Denial. The episode is about a 24-year-old criminology student who left a Soho bar intoxicated. She was then found raped and murdered, as well as handcuffed, gagged, and wrapped in a blanket alongside a desolate road in East New York, Brooklyn. Fibers from 2 fur coats and a rabbit-collared leather jacket were found on a quilt used to wrap her battered body.
Be sure to check out Forensic Files 2. The episode Blanket Denial airs Sunday, July 31st at 10 p.m. Eastern, and again on Sunday, August 7th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
Up next, her murder stuns even hardened New Yorkers.
It was a pretty horrific homicide, and we knew that the suspect perpetrator was still on the loose.
We begin tonight with the latest developments in a crime that has shocked this unshockable city.
The life cut short, way too short. That should have never happened.
The killer has attempted to strip all identification from his victim.
We didn't know the cause of death at that point. We didn't know who she was.
I can't find out who killed you unless I know who you are.
Detectives finally ID the dead woman and are led to a killer with a seemingly limitless capacity for violence.
It's just beyond belief. It's like a Jack the Ripper kind of guy. You know, just absolute animals.
And we're back. Let's kick things off with some of the true crime stories that have been making headlines this week.
On Monday, a shooter in Langley, British Columbia, went on a rampage targeting people who were unhoused. Around midnight, the 28-year-old Jordan Daniel Goggin shot his first victim outside the Cascades Casino, leaving a woman critically injured. He shot a total of 5 people, killing 3 over the next 6 hours. An active shooter alert was issued to cell phones around BC at 6:20 a.m., and the shooter was killed by RCMP around that time. The woman who was shot remains in critical care in the hospital. The identities of the victims have not yet been released.
24-year-old Joseph Collins has been charged with a hate crime after allegedly vandalizing a bakery advertising a drag show. According to officials, Joseph did significant damage to the Uprising Bakery and Cafe located in Lake in the Hills, Illinois. He broke the windows and spray painted the building with anti-gay messages. Joseph has been charged with 2 felony counts of a hate crime and criminal damage to property. Before we dig in, we want to offer a quick disclaimer. Though we joke about forming a true crime cult, that is not to diminish the severity of actual cult activity, and we want you to know that we take the cases we're discussing very seriously.
We want to deliver each story with the utmost respect to victims and anyone involved. If you feel we've missed the mark, you don't like our tone, or if you notice we've gotten any details wrong, let us know with a quick email to murdermurdernews@gmail.com and we'll make it right.
Some specific trigger warnings for this episode include mentions of possible kidnapping or trafficking. If either of those are particularly sensitive subjects for you, feel free to skip this one and listen to one of our other episodes instead.
We're taking a brief break from true crime history because we need your help with a missing person case. Jacqueline Reyes has been missing from Boynton Beach, Florida since June 2nd after she left her home in the early morning hours and hasn't been seen or heard from since. It's not like the stunning 30-year-old model and actress to take off, and it's certainly not like her to go silent with her mom, sisters, and friends, especially after the 4th of July just passed when they would normally all wish each other a happy holiday. To make matters worse, Jacky's family has been told she doesn't meet the criteria for media coverage, whatever that means. So people in Boynton Beach don't realize she's missing, as her story has barely been on the news. And with what little coverage there has been about her case, Jacky's family has had to fight for, calling news stations, making TikToks, and a page on Facebook. Jacky is a woman of color, and her family has pointed out that it's a struggle to get the same level of help as Gabby Petito, and we all need to work together to change that. We need your help sharing her story and getting the word out so we can bring Jacky home.
Jacky is loved, and her mom, Jacky Sr., her 2 sisters, Rhonda and Carrie, and friends have tirelessly been fighting for answers. Jacky Sr., who does not consider herself social media savvy, has taken to TikTok to make daily posts, even though her mental health has taken a beating and her MS has been affected by her anxiety. Rhonda, who is a grounding force, always reminding her family to stick with the facts, not speculation, has been working to get answers from detectives who say they are actively investigating Jacky's disappearance, though they have not provided updates for the family in weeks. We have Jacky Sr., Rhonda, and Jacky's childhood best friend Melanie with us today to piece together the timeline of events before Jacky disappeared.
Jacky has a beautiful smile, and you could tell that she could indeed light up a room, and her mom and sister remember her having that light as a kid as well.
She was born in Flagstaff, Arizona, and it's a small little town. And but she was my little spoiled girl because her big sisters are a lot older than hers. And I was a single mom with 3 kids. So, it's just the way she smiles, the way, she's just full of life. I mean, and she's very educated. I mean, she's just full of life. And one thing that just reminded me about when I was looking at some of the photos of Rhonda and her having a snowball fight. And she was getting upset because Rhonda kept attacking her, So, it's like little things like that. And looking at our Christmases together, and
oh my gosh, my mother just had a thing of like matching us all. Even when I was little, right? My sister Carrie and I matching dresses all the time. Well, her like most pride and joy moment is the moment when she had Jacqueline then, and she got all 3 of us like custom made Christmas dresses, all with these like candy canes on them.
Me too.
They were cute. I love you, Mom. So I know that things like that were really important. I mean, there was such a big age gap, but I think even more important, it's like we are now not a huge age gap. And so you get close when you start sharing real life things. You know what I mean?
Her friend Melanie remembers Jacky has always made friends easily, even when they first met way back in elementary school.
I have always been a very shy person. It's always hard for me to open up to people. And even, in kindergarten, I know for a fact that I was very quiet. It was very hard for me to make friends. And Jacky is also pretty introverted, but she had absolutely no issue just taking me under her wing, and she just never let go. So, we were very, very close all throughout our childhood and teenage years. And she has been that way ever since. Like, she's really good at making new friends. And then the ones that she makes, she never lets go of them. She brings them along with her. And so her friend group has just grown and grown and grown. And all of us have kind of, been reminiscing. And most of them, Jacky introduced me to them because she met them and introduced me. And so that's, she's the reason that I have the friend group that I have now, just because she's just, so giving and so caring about everyone that, she loves.
Melanie also shared a memory from their mutual friend, Lily.
We met her in 4th grade, so a little later, but the 3 of us were kind of just like, I think Jacky Sr. called us the 3 Musketeers a couple times, and that's pretty much what we were. But Lily shared a story that really, tugged at my heartstrings because obviously I love Lily so much, but she just said that I really struggled with my mental health in high school, and it was always Jacky that would lovingly push me to be social and make sure I wasn't forgotten. She went out of her way to make sure I was included, sometimes whether I liked it or not. Almost all of my high school memories I have are because of her. And it's true of me too, but I know that, she just cares so deeply about everyone in her life.
Jacky grew up in Flagstaff, which, for those of you who haven't visited, it's not exactly what you might think of when you think of Arizona. It's pretty small, with a population of around 70,000, and set in the mountains, surrounded by ponderosa pines. There's even a volcano. Jacky Sr. has described her daughter as a nature spirit. She's always loved hiking, camping, and being outdoors.
She went camping with my family and I. It was like a backpacking trip kind of. It was only a mile in, but I think we were less than 10. We were really young, but she came with us and she was so excited to be there because I don't know, Jacky Sr. worked a lot, and, camping was kind of hard to do with everything else going on. So I think it might've been her first camping trip. I'm not really sure. So she came camping with us anyway, and she just had so much fun there. And she took a piece of bark off of a tree while we were there because she just wanted to remember it. And when I saw her in December, which was the last time I saw her, she said that she still has that piece of bark from that tree. So she's kind of the person that holds on to little keepsakes that hold little to no value, but they mean so much to her. So it's just like, I just thought that was really, and of course, being such a nature baby, all of us were, went on hikes after school every day in high school, and we were always out there flag visiting mountain camp. So.
Jacky Sr. was a single mother of 3, but she did her best to provide for her 3 daughters, making sure they had food on the table and a roof over their head, and was always their chaperone for their trips. In Flagstaff, there's a 6th grade rites of passage, attending Camp Colton. At the camp, there's a lava river cave formed by molten rock, which sounds very dark and spooky, but of course, fearless Jacky loved it.
And I remember doing it as a kid too, right? They take you down there and you all have flashlights because it's pitch black. And in Arizona and Flagstaff, we have the San Francisco Peaks, which is a inactive volcano at this point. It's extinct. But there's lava tubes, and they take all the kids down there and they walk through. It's about 1.5 miles of a lava entrance tube. And then there's like the Mumpskin side where you have to like crawl through if you want to go through. I remember her saying like just how fun that was. And she loved getting to go to camp. Oh my God, Melanie, do you still remember that stupid song? They teach everyone the Camp Colton song, and you spell the letters of the Colton.
And we had to hear that song.
Oh my God. See, we've just begun. Oh, I'm the 2nd letter in L. I am the 3rd letter T. I'm the 4th letter in this word. Whoa, oh, we're near the end. And that's the end. Colton. That's the way you spell Colton.
With her love of the outdoors, she also has an adventurous side and has dreamed of traveling and seeing the world. In high school, Jacky and Melanie planned a big trip together.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we went to Australia after our junior year of high school through a program called People to People. And so it was just a program for kids our age, teenagers, to go to a different country and explore, a different place, I guess. So me, her, and another friend of ours, we all had played volleyball with each other. So we were all really close with this other friend as well. But we kind of toured up the whole east coast of Australia while we were there. It was like a 2-week trip or something. It was amazing. And the 3 of us just had so much fun. Of course, it was like 16-year-olds being away from our parents for a couple weeks in the summer was just a blast. But just being able to see Australia, it's still like one of my favorite experiences. And being able to experience it with Jacky also was incredible.
At 5'8", with a glowing smile, the obvious move for Jacky was modeling. But she would have to get out of Flagstaff to pursue her dream.
Flagstaff's boring. Flagstaff was boring. And she's beautiful. I mean, what girl that is as tall as she is and as beautiful as she is, like her going into modeling was always something that I think was encouraged by my mom and definitely supported by us. We thought it was great. She's beautiful and has the personality and go get her for it. But when she went out to California, I think she just wanted to create something of herself, to have her own identity away from Flagstaff, away from expectations, and be in a big city where she can just kind of find herself.
She was not just interested in modeling, but also fashion. LA seemed like the best place for her after a high school field trip with Melanie.
When she first went out there, because when we were in high school, she absolutely loved the fashion and design class in high school. Had a great teacher. And so I think she took the class either 2 or 3 times. She just loved it. But in that class for a field trip, they take you to LA. tour FITM, the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising. You get to tour that school. You get to, go to the beach. We go to Disneyland. It was a really fun field trip. So that was a big part of the reason I took the class anyway. But so she just absolutely loved that class and everything she learned. And she loved FITM. And so she wanted to go there.
Jacky had her ups and downs while in LA. She loved doing design and was getting some modeling and extra roles. She even once appeared in an episode of Grey's Anatomy. While living in LA, she befriended rapper Mac Miller, appearing in some of his videos.
When she got there, she was immediately got really into kind of like the rapper scene and meeting people that were kind of still underground, but making it. And that's when she met Mac Miller. And she was best friends with Mac Miller before he was even close to being famous. So that's kind of why she was so close to him, is because he wasn't famous yet. And she just kind of, I don't know how she found him, but one thing that I do remember is the minute Blackberries were available, she got one, and she was always either on Twitter or meeting people online. And that's how she ended up, in LA, and immediately had friends and people to meet up with. And, she was an introvert, but she was very social. Like, she was very able to meet people she didn't know and be in uncomfortable situations and just make friends and make the best out of it. And she's always been like that. So, and I know that LA was very scary for her, but I think she also most of the time felt like she was in her element.
She lived in LA for about 10 years and was making the best of it with a long-term boyfriend. But in 2020, things took a turn with the start of the pandemic, the end of her relationship, and the death of her stepdad, Richard, whom she was really close with. Jacky is actually half Jamaican, but her last name came from Richard, who was a wonderful father to her and adopted her. His death was really hard on her. Film and photography sets shut down in LA with the arrival of COVID, and work dried up for Jacky. And then with the murder of George Floyd and the big launch of the Black Lives Matter movement in the summer of 2020, Jacky was deeply impacted and her mental health took a toll.
I know that she was having a hard time seeing all of the coverage of, the Black Lives Matter movement getting ramped up and all of the, marches and everything, violence going on. And I think that's when she deleted her social media accounts. And I don't know if it was that. It could have been a million reasons that she deleted them, but that's why I remember it, because it was around that time. And I was talking to her on the phone about it, and it sounded like, because she was in LA at that time, and that's when she decided to leave LA, but it just sounded like she was having such a hard time.
She called her mom quite a bit during this time, talking about her anxiety and depression. She ultimately decided to leave LA.
For the next year, Jacky moved in with her older sister, Carrie, in New Mexico. This was still during the height of the pandemic, and she mostly stayed in her room alone, working on designing. She was with Carrie until May of 2021, when she returned to LA briefly, hoping film sets had opened back up. When another wave of COVID hit, making it harder to get work again, she ended up leaving in December of 2021. She headed to Florida next for a few reasons.
I believe it was also like, well, let me go see if I can get some work over there, which when you do modeling, Florida's great for that kind of stuff. So, and it has a big industry there. So I think that was kind of like her plan. I know that when she got there in January of this year, it wasn't necessarily how she planned it to start out. But she, I do know in May, was getting in contact with her old California employer. And the California employer was going to have Jacky do some satellite stuff, like go to these other stores to sell product. And I know that was one way that she was going to start having some steady work so that she could pursue her passions.
She was doing work for a woman-run business who had been her employer in California, but she was also going to online classes, looking for modeling work, trying to get into the fashion industry, and working at Carrabba's, an Italian restaurant, to make ends meet.
Another reason to head to Florida is because she found out her biological father, Denzel, was sick with cancer, and much of her extended family happened to be living there. She hadn't been close with her dad, her Aunt Joy, her Uncle Carl, or her two half-brothers, Dustin and Joshua, as a kid.
Denzel, she didn't really know him, but she always had that ache of knowing. You always kind of want to know your blood, And so Denzel was a drifter, and different, but I even remember him as a little child when my mom was pregnant and then had Jacqueline. I was 10 at the time, and he was so nice to us. He was very, very nice. And I know that when Jacqueline got word, or Jacky, when she got, like I said, we called her, I call her Jacqueline. When she found out that he was passing, I think that was just, it was enough. And she just sporadically went out to Florida because she had to find family on that biological side so that she could find some comfort, I think, because that's it. Like, she don't got another dad to try to, conclude some lost feelings with.
As a teen, Jacky went to her mom because she did want to get to know him and have him in her life.
His family didn't come into the picture until I think around the time when Jacqueline was starting to ask questions when she was around 15. And I never denied her anything. And that's when the internet started doing search. So what I did was I put out letters trying to locate anyone. And that's how I got connected with that family. So she actually made, I just don't remember what year it was, but she made a trip for Thanksgiving one year after she was 18.
Jacky hadn't been super close with her father, but they had been working on the relationship for years. They were close enough that it's believed he may have left her everything he had when he died in March of this year.
Joy told me that Dee left my sister everything that was his. I guess he had some land. And that when right before he passed in the hospital, he was like, I want to make sure Jacky gets it. It was kind of like, my understanding from what Joy said was was kind of his way of offering some final love, I guess. I don't know. Because of lost time,
Jacky's family is not sure exactly what Denzel left her, but they believe he had some land in Oklahoma that appears to have been abandoned for a while.
Throughout the years, Jacky had only met her Aunt Joy a handful of times. But when she found out about her dad's cancer and was having trouble locating him, she got in touch with her aunt to help. According to Rhonda, Joy was surprised when she heard from Jacky, since they hadn't been in touch much throughout the years, but she agreed to let Jacky stay with her in her home in Boynton Beach, Florida. Joy had a small place, and Jacky rented a room from her.
It sounds like the environment wasn't very emotionally stable. And I say that with as much love as I can, because I get what it is like to have family members or even struggle with mental health myself sometimes. So I don't think, I'm not trying to say anything bad, but I believe that the mental health in the home made it turbulent for Jacky. And, but there were good times too. Like, Joy speaks about the fact that, like, they would have a ton of fun together. And when I would speak to Jacky on the couple times I spoke to her, she was like doing good and going to online school. I know that there was some information given out from an employer saying that they had even spoken to her a few days before she went missing, and she was doing good.
While staying with Joy, Jacky kept working for her employer in California, plus Carrabba's, and taking online classes. She would take a bus around Boynton Beach to get to her job as a waitress. As far as her family knows, she wasn't dating anyone in Florida. Coworkers at Carrabba's said she was pretty quiet and kept to herself. As Rhonda mentioned, Joy and Jacky seemed to get along well most of the time, but did have some friction at home. Joy was interviewed by Dateline and mentioned the two had butted heads a few times, but never over anything serious. She also mentioned to Rhonda that Jacky had been talking to her uncle Carl as well and believes he wasn't to be trusted.
When I spoke to Joy, it sounded like there was a lot of friction between her and her brother Carl, Joy and Carl. My understanding is that Joy told Jacqueline not to have contact with him, and that when she did have contact with him, it made her very mad. And my understanding from speaking to Carl is that in his words, it seemed more like he didn't know her and this stranger called him up needing some money. And that just seemed odd to me in a way, because I don't find Jacqueline to be the type of person that would just call someone she doesn't know for money. But he said he sent her $300.
In April, Rhonda last spoke with Jacky on the phone.
I had spoken to her in April and sung her happy birthday on her, like we always do, annoying each other. Because it's really annoying because our mom did it to us and we hated it. So now we do it to each other. So I spoke to her in April for her birthday. I think it was actually a little bit after because I am so forgetful. I usually do belated birthdays, but I try to get them in.
On May 25th, they texted with each other. On May 31st, Jacky Sr. texted with Jacky for the last time. Early on the morning of June 2nd was the last day anyone has seen or heard from Jacky. On June 1st, a friend of hers texted with her. That night, a Wednesday, Jacky spent the evening hanging out with her aunt. Here's Rhonda's account of what she was told by Joy.
On June 1st, her and Joy were hanging out. I don't know if that was a weekend. I can't remember anymore. But they were hanging out like it was a weekend night type of thing. My sister had brought home some beers for them to drink and just to relax after work. And that they were drinking and, drinking those beers she had brought. And then later that night, somewhere around like 11 o'clock, they had the laundry fight about her not cleaning her laundry as frequently. And then Joy said that at 1:30 in the morning on June 2nd, she was sleeping in the living room, I would assume, because my sister was renting the bedroom. And she said she was laying there and she heard Jacky go out the door and slam it closed at 1:30 in the morning, and she never came back.
Let's hear a little more about the fight between Jacky and Joy.
The thing that led to their fight that night that my sister walked out was over laundry. My sister, again, right, very conscientious of her apparel and the way she looks because that's her job. That's a part of her livelihood of representing herself. So that's a big thing. And so Joy wasn't happy with how often she was doing laundry. And so had asked Jacky not to do it as frequently. And it probably wasn't during the best of times because it was in the middle of the night, and definitely not like communicated well, I think. And so it really pissed her off. Like, how dare you tell me when and how I can clean my laundry? But it was Joy's place, so.
According to Joy, Jacky walked out of their home on the 4100 block of Shady Lane with her purse, her laptop, and her phone. Joy is not sure what she was wearing. It was her assumption that Jacky had left to blow off some steam, possibly to sit in the backyard, get an Uber to a friend's house, or even possibly go to Carl's. She assumed Jacky would come back the next morning. But Jacky didn't return the next morning. No one has been in contact with her since June 2nd. According to Joy's interview with Dateline, she was worried and reported her missing almost immediately, but police would not take her seriously since she was 30 years old and had left of her own free will. Of course, we know this is often an excuse police use when the missing person is a person of color. No report was filed.
Unfortunately, with Jacky missing and no one looking for her, her investigation lost critical time.
And like someone said, we lost the first crucial 48 hours from the time this happened. We lost, those are the most crucial time. So this is hindering everything.
And as the true crime community knows, this really is a thing. It's important to collect evidence before it's disposed of or simply deteriorates. Memories are still the freshest for potential witnesses. Surveillance video is still available before it's recorded over. For Jacky, no one would start looking for her for a month after her disappearance. Her family had no idea she was gone until June 28th. At that time, her family started to realize no one had heard from Jacky in a while. Jacky Sr. admits that she's not always the best at reaching out to her family with her health issues, but Jacky would call her all the time saying, "Mom, why aren't you checking on me?" Jacky Sr. received a phone call from an unknown number that she would later find out was from Uncle Carl. He didn't leave a message and didn't answer Jacky Sr.'s calls when she called back. Rhonda did get a hold of Carl, but the conversation she had with him left her a little confused. He said he thought he was calling Jacky's phone number, even though he had already had her number. He said he thought a voicemail Jacky Sr. had left was Jacky Jr., and it was good to know she was alive. That seems like a strange thing to say, since there would have been no reason to believe Jacky was anything but alive.
Once her family pieced it together that Jacky hadn't been seen since June 2nd at 1:30 in the morning, a police report was made by Joy, the last person to see her. Around that time, Jacky Sr. learned a body had been found in Boynton Beach, about 18 miles from Joy's home where she was last seen. The body was found on June 25th, and the state of decomp seemed to closely line up with the timeline of Jacky's disappearance. Police have not released any information about the identity of the body, and when Jacky Sr. sent the information to the sheriff, she was simply told they were working on it.
The thing that's upsetting is there's a body that's unidentified in the morgue. And if it's a homicide investigate, whatever it is, can't you just go find out if it's my sister? And if it is, say we're not allowed to know anything, but she's dead so that we can grieve.
But it's been over a month since the body was found and a month since Jacky has been gone, but there still haven't been any updates.
The only thing I'm upset about with the sheriff's department, I wish they would have a better protocol to help me know what my steps are and to involve me in that way, so that when I involve my mother that way, so that therefore it doesn't feel like I haven't heard from the detective in 3 weeks, and I asked her to please update me once a week. Just please, I'm her sister, I'm her oldest. And I told her, I said, my mom, suffers with mental illness and she has other issues. It would be best if you could just update me, because then I can call my sister and my mom and help relay that in a calm way. But that just seems like it's too much to do.
To make matters worse, her family was told Jacky did not meet the criteria for media coverage.
I asked the detective about that. And this is a very upsetting topic for my mother. But I did ask, what is that? And pretty much it's because with her missing persons report, someone has said that she walked out of her own free will, with cell phone, purse, and laptop, according to Joy. Since she walked out of the house with those items on her own, according to Joy, she's not a missing person.
The lack of media coverage has been a big detriment to finding Jacky because, as we mentioned, people in Boynton Beach haven't heard of her or know that she's missing. That means there could be witnesses that saw something and didn't realize it. You probably already get a sense that Jacky is not the kind of girl to just drop off the map. She's always been in touch with her family and such a loyal friend. She had a lot going on for her, and she was working on a new project from her employer in California and had talked to them about it not long before she went missing. And she has never disappeared before.
This has never happened before, ever. No, even as a teenager, I don't even recall a time where she ran away and went silent. Nothing like that. I mean, the fact is I think because of the health of our mother even, we've always checked in.
The area where Jacky went missing does have a high crime rate, and she didn't know the area well.
Yeah, and something that us girls have, just discussed is that Jacky was just very trusting of, both other people and her surroundings. Partly because of growing up in Flagstaff, that environment was, always very safe, but also, she was not familiar with Florida. She had only been there for 5 or 6 months. And so maybe she had an idea that the area she was in wasn't very safe, but even if she didn't know that, she was just very trusting in herself and the people around her that probably, nothing would go badly.
We have more questions than answers, but here's what we do know about evidence linked to the day she went missing. According to Joy, Jacky had her phone with her when she left, but her friends were able to call the cell phone company to access some information about her phone's last location.
The last time it was pinged to a tower was the 14th of June, 13th or 14th. And that it was close to her original location. So that's very confusing too. If she did she take the phone with her? Didn't she take the phone with her?
So her phone last pinged a tower near Joy's home on June 14th, 2 weeks after she was last seen. This raises some questions for sure. How would her phone still have any battery left if she had just left it at home? If she had left Joy's house and just gone somewhere else, why did it ping a tower in the same area? The phone Jacky was using had belonged to Joy, and Joy received a letter at the end of June stating the phone hadn't been used in 25 days and the account would be closed due to inactivity. We did mention that Denzel may have left Jacky his land in Oklahoma, and Rhonda, who just might have a career as a detective, did look into that.
And I contacted the local police out there and I did a health check out at the property. And that police department was so amazing. They took me very seriously, very kind, listened to everything I had to say. Because I've done a lot of the calling for my mom. They even checked with the neighbors. They went around and asked all down that street. And there's not many because it's like one of those places where it's like miles between people for the most part. But the people in the area had said that that area has been vacant and not seen any activity since Dee's death. So we're suspecting she's not there.
So what could have happened to Jacky? Could she have been kidnapped or trafficked? Was someone she knew involved? Her family has good reason to believe she didn't just walk away from them and her entire support system.
There are many questions her family does not have answers to since they have not been able to access her phone. Is it possible she had taken an Uber that night? Did she have a bus ticket that could have been validated? Had she made any calls or texts that night? There might be a way of tracking her laptop. Some of those questions may be able to be answered by a private detective, which her family is looking into. We will include a link to their GoFundMe in our show notes, so please donate if you're able. And if you are a PI who may be able to lend a hand, they could really use your help. And there's some other ways you can help Jacky.
If you've seen her, call the Palm Beach Sheriff's Department. I believe you guys will have that information listed. If you know something, if you saw something, then just spread the word out because this is the only way it's happening. And we have to use the resources.
If you have any information about Jacky's disappearance, please call the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office at 561-688-3740. And that info will also be available in our show notes with links to Jacky's Facebook page and TikTok, which Jacky Sr. is updating daily.
I've been doing it since the first, and there's probably over 30 videos now, and I'm not going to stop until she's found. And I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep pushing, and I'm going to keep pushing, and I'm going to keep pushing TikTok, whatever it takes to find her. I'm just going to keep pushing, and Instagram, everything, and I'm going to keep doing it until she's found. I want answers. I want my daughter. I want answers.
Help spread the word. Share this episode with a friend or share Jacky Sr.'s TikToks. Let's bring Jacky home. And Jacky, if you're out there and just needed to get away, Rhonda just wants you to know that you're loved.
And if Jacky, if you're hiding because of feeling some type of shame or something, there is nothing. There's like nothing you could do to make us upset at you in a way where I wouldn't forgive you or support you. I don't care what it is. I don't care. Just call me. Don't worry about it. We all mess up.
So have you been watching anything crimey this week?
Not a thing. I'm caught up on Only Murders in the Building. And I did, for anyone that is watching, make a Only Murders in the Building meme, which is like quite specific.
Yes.
And I don't know how well it did on TikTok. It might have been like too timely, but.
Well, hey, it might catch on later. Like there's some of the memes that you made that just like do a random resurface.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's
you
true.
never know what will happen with memes.
Yeah. Our
but it's
Christmas
a good one.
ones always come back each year, which I like to
Yeah,
see.
that's true.
But yeah, it's getting real good. But that's the only thing I've watched. How about you?
Well, I started a couple of things. One was there's a series on Netflix called Indian Predator, The Butcher of Delhi, which is pretty sensational. I get the impression that they're trying to be like, big, like weird, sensational murder stories happen in India as well. It's not just Americans, and that's kind of the whole vibe of the thing. And I think it's made by Vice or something like this.
Okay.
The intro, they have like a little animated intro, which is disturbing to say the least. It shows like disembodied like body parts and stuff. Like it's just really, I don't know why they took that angle. Yeah. So like I watched one episode and I was like, I'm not sure this is doing it for me, because it's like equal parts sensational, like more than necessary, and boring somehow. There's still like boring moments. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about this one. So then I turned to another series on Netflix called DB Cooper, Where Are You?
I've heard about this.
This is interesting.
Is it good?
Yeah, this is good. There's obviously, I don't think this case will ever be solved because it's been so many years and there's so many different ideas out there, but like nothing particularly holding more weight than others. So I don't think they're going to clear it up. But it's really interesting to hear from all the different people who are like, I think DB Cooper was my cocaine dealer. And you're just like, this is great. So
that's amazing.
It's really a long-lasting mystery, and there's a lot of people that get tied into it, and it's pretty fascinating. So I would recommend that one.
Okay. I'll check that one out. That's great. And also, if anybody has any podcast recommendations.
Oh, yeah.
Other than us.
Yeah.
You better be recommending us. If anybody has any other recommendations, let us know, because I have been like in this, I went for like a while where my life was just too chaotic to like watch TV and listen to podcasts. And normally I have a lot of time in the mornings when I'm like taking a bath, making a smoothie, feeding the dog. Like I used to go through like a lot of audiobooks and podcasts, and I'm back to like having a regular schedule. And now I actually have time for them, and I just don't know what to listen to. And I tend to like serial cases where it's like one crime per season. Like In the Dark is one of my all-time favorites. So if anybody has any recommendations like that, let us know, because I could use it.
Have you ever, it's a little old, but have you ever listened to The Clearing?
I haven't.
That's a good one. That's like a multi-part sort of serial thing. That I like.
I'm literally pulling that up right now while we're making a podcast.
Awesome. Just start listening. Be like, forget it, Angelina. I'm busy.
All right, I'm going to go do this now, y'all. Switch over with me.
Well, I guess that's enough murder for 1 week. But maybe this week you're feeling like you need just a little bit more murder. If so, you can always find us on the OG murdermurder.news for the latest breaking true crime news all week long.
You can also find us on all the social media platforms. Make sure you're following us so you don't miss the photo hint that we release each week, so you can guess which story we're going to be covering next. There's no photo hint this week because it doesn't fit with the subject matter of the episode, but for last week's episode, we had 2 correct guesses, and we want to give those folks a shout out. We posted a photo of a residential street with a sausage factory, and both Shelly and Abigail XO guessed correctly that we could be discussing Anthony Sewell, who was the Cleveland Strangler. You can find us on Instagram at Murder Murder News, on TikTok at Murder Murder News, on Twitter at Murder News. On Facebook, you'll find our page by searching for Murder Murder News.
And if you search Murder Murder News on Facebook, our group should also pop up. You'll want to join us to stay in the loop about any upcoming virtual events and to find the Zoom link for our next book club meeting this Sunday. We've been reading Just Like Mother by Ann Heltzel, and we're very excited to chat about that and to announce our next few book club selections, which we'll be posting the same day we release this episode. So go check it out in our Facebook group.
If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Reviews are so important if we want to keep this podcast alive and to keep creating creepy content catered to your interests.
Have a great weekend.
Bye, friends.
Bye.